Hey all, Heretic here with another Hearthstone Battlegrounds Player's Guide, and I'm here to bring you the information you need to help you win with N'Zoth. So get comfy and let's dive in. First, let's talk about the Hero Power Avatar of N'Zoth. This is a free hero power that reads, start the game with a 2/2 fish that gains all your death rattles in combat. So what this means is during the combat, at any point in time where one of your minions dies, the fish will then gain that death rattle. So the minion has to die first, then the fish will gain it. At the end of the combat, the death rattles all go away, and he's just a 2/2 fish again. And you have to rinse and repeat at the beginning of every combat. It's not a permanent buff you gain. It's important to remember. This is very strong, especially once you can get some taunts set up. You know, it gives you great tempo. It's just overall a really good early game minion to have. It really ranks... The whole game, it just ramps up nonstop. It's a very good minion to have. In the late game, it is incredibly powerful. If you can get your order and your board right, it is definitely going to win you a few games. Now, when it comes to tiering N'Zoth, that's pretty easy. Just do your basic curve. There's a few other ways people do it. Myself, I just like the basic curve with it because primarily those tier 2 beasts are very good. You want to spend some time there. You want to make sure you get those. And just tier 2 minions have a few good death rattles that really play into this hero and the hero power. Now, when you're looking for the minions you want to play with N'Zoth, typically you're going to be a beast build. Almost every time, but if you've had no luck and you triple into an early Omega Buster, you definitely can make, Omega Buster N'Zoth work. It's gonna die, the Omega Buster, N'Zoth's fish is gonna gain it, and the next thing you know, you've got another trigger for it. It really does work well, but this isn't really where this hero shines. It shines with beasts. Early minions you want looking for, I like the Rabid Sorlisk, because hey, it's a beast, you're picking up death rattles all game, that buffs this beast. It just works. You probably won't keep it for the duration of the game, but it's still going to be quite good for a long time. Spawn N'Zoth, another good early minion. It buffs your board, your fish gains the buff, your fish dies, does the buff again. Pretty good. Beasts you're going to be looking for, the really good ones. Leapfrogger, definitely a way you can build this. You want the Leapfrogger, and you want other beasts that summon more beasts to generate more frogs leaping around. It really does work. It's quite effective. Sewer Rat. Sewer Rat is a mediocrely statted beast, but it summons a taunt. In the early game, that's going to let the rest of your board survive longer, letting those death rattles do their work. Rat Pack. The more buffs this thing gains, the more rats it summons, and if you already have buffs bouncing around, once again, same deal. Monstrous Macaw. Great minion because it triggers death rattles on your board. Now, you just got to be careful on positioning and how many death rattles you have. If you get a bunch of them, odds are it's not going to trigger the one you want, but if you do the positioning right, you can finagle it where you might get lucky and get exactly what you want. It's quite a powerful beast. Mama Bear. Put this thing down, drop other beasts on the board, or they get summoned during combat, they get bigger. Can't really go wrong with that one. Cave Hydra. Now, typically this is hard to buff, but if you've got a Mama Bear online when you drop it, or if you've got, a Goldrin and it dies and it buffs it, you can definitely have ways to make this thing grow and get decently sized. Gas Coiler. Right now there are so many good death rattles in the game. Gas Coiler, if you're already running a beast board, you've already got the fish and N'Zoth out there, you can't really go wrong. Throw some more RNG and at least scam your opponent out of it. The things that make this work better that aren't necessarily beasts or things you want to keep on the board. Reanimating Rattler. It's a beast that makes one of your other beasts have Reborn. This is phenomenal. Probably not going to stay on the board, but its Battle Cries effect sure will. Thing to remember that's important is death rattles go off before Reborn. So if you death rattle something that summons a bunch of minions, odds are there's not going to be room for it to return. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about the targets. It's still not bad to put on some smaller things, but you put on a Rat Pack, odds are you're never going to have room for that Rat Pack to come back alive. Defender of Argus, Houndmaster. To get the minions you need to have taunt so they die, like the Goldrin, like your Leapfrogger, these are the minions you need to make that happen. Bird Buddy. In the early portion of the game where you're summoning lots of things but you don't quite have the board filled out, Bird Buddy's great. Every time something dies, all your beasts gets buffed. Can't really lose on that one. Baron Rivendare. This one's a great one. If you're doing a death rattle board, the guy who makes all the death rattles go off 2 times is pretty good. And finally, Blood Gems. Now, you don't need to have Blood Gems. All of this can work without it. But if you want your Baron Rivendare, if you want your individual beasts to survive against zaps and whatnot in the late game, Blood Gems are quite useful. So if they're in, maybe cycle a couple Quillbores, hang on to them for the later game. If just 1 or 2 here and there don't hurt. If you can get like 4 of them sitting there for when you get that Baron, you now no longer have to worry about Zap. That feels pretty good. Now when it comes to countering N'Zoth, there's a couple different ways you can do it. Stats. Depending on the version of N'Zoth he is, if it's Leapfrog or if it's Goldrinn or something else, big enough stats, you can run him into the ground. Just got to get a lot of them. Cleave. He needs to summon a bunch of things, and he has to have a bunch of death rattles happen in relatively specific orders. If you can cleave out larger portions of his board, kill 3 minions at once, oftentimes you can mess things up pretty badly. Wind Fury. Well, they usually have 1, maybe 2 taunts. If you can blow through the taunts with the Wind Fury, get into the backfield and start killing, the Baron Rivendares and the fish early, you're seriously going to hamper their board. And Zaps. Especially if Quillboran aren't in, Zaps will mess up their day. Drop this thing first, let it kill his Baron, and then his fish, he's kind of in trouble. There's a few ways he can tech to get around this, but they're iffy. That Baron's probably going to die pretty quick. N'Zoth is a very fun and interesting combo hero. So if you find all the pieces, you're going to win big. If you find some of the pieces of the combo, you still have a really good chance. And if you find none of them, yeah, you're desperate and you're trying just to finish 4th place. Overall, though, that's a lot of fun. If you can get at least some of them, you feel like you're competitive and you're having a good time with it. It's a lot of fun to see the scam builds and how they play out. I love doing the scam one. It's not the most effective. Give me 3 gas coilers. Throw them on the board, triple them, give them reward, and just watch the insanity. I enjoy doing that probably more than anything, even if it's not the most competitive, just because it's fun to watch the randomness go off. It's just one of the ways I enjoy doing it. It's not the way to climb, it's just the way to have a fun game. In the end, I've attached a link with some gameplay if you're looking to see how I piloted them. Stay tuned, I have more guides on the way, and I hope you learned a few things today and I had a good time. I know I did. Bye.